We're live. Yay. Well, hello, everyone. My name is Anna, and I am representing the New York Open Center here live with you with Joanna Crespo, and we're going to have a fantastic conversation. The New York Open Center is the longest running urban holistic education center in New York City. For 36 years, the Open Center has been a trusted home of what I'll call the conscious community, where people of all walks of life can come to gather, meet each other, to study, to practice, and to train in all things personal development, spirituality, and healing art. Since the virus, which is affecting the entire world, happened, the Open Center responded by quickly bringing all of its programs online. We will be back in a physical space, and we will be gathering back together again someday, but not just yet. We have to wait to see what happens with all moving parts. Until then, we're really blessed that by putting all of our programs online, we now are welcoming people from all over the world and all over the United States into our programs. And what that does is just open up the community, making it a global community, and giving amazing teachers like Joanna Crespo access to them and then access to Joanna. So Joanna, I'd like to give her a proper introduction. She is our lead director of training for Reiki, a series of Reiki classes that we offer that she has designed and she directs. So her bio mentions that she's been practicing Reiki for 15 years. She's also a certified family constellations practitioner. She is certified in Chinese herbalism. She is also certified in Kundalini yoga. And like I said, she designed the Reiki training program at the Open Center, and she's the primary teacher. She has a private practice in Montclair, New Jersey, and she's available to all of us for one-on-one consultation. So when I met Joanna, this other world opened up to me that I also wanted to include in her introduction, which is that when you hear her bio, you may think, oh, well, that's her life. Her life sits all in the holistic arts, and she's a full-time employee of a place like the Open Center. But that's actually not true. Joanna has a 30-year history working in investment banking. Her 9 to 5 or her 8 to 6 is actually sitting in investment banking. And when I met that about her and we started talking, I started to learn that she has integrated those two sides of herself. And to me, it felt so freeing to know that, because sometimes in the holistic community, we as students or practitioners can think that you actually have to compartmentalize yourself, that you can't do both together, that you have to leave your secular life or your material life in order to practice in energy healing or spirituality and other healing modalities. And the truth is, you don't. And not only do you not have to, but I would say that the health of the world, the health of the future, depends on those of us who can integrate and can bring the healing arts into any role that we play in life, whether it's corporate, investment banking, education, our roles as community members, parents, professionals. That is how the globe will heal. That is how our communities will heal. And that is what I think Joanna really embodies. And I'm sure brings to her students and to her community. So with further ado, I just wanted to welcome you and maybe even start with that, Joanna. So you spent 30 years in investment banking. You're a veteran there. But when I went to your Instagram page, it is gorgeous, and it's all things healing and crystals and beauty, and you obviously are a deep practitioner in a lot of modalities. So how did you get to where you are?
I think one of the things, well, for many people, life happens, right? And like everyone else, I got to a point where I just went through depressions, and I didn't have answers. And I believe I just didn't have any answers. And then someone said to me, why don't you go practice Reiki? I didn't know what Reiki is, and I didn't care what Reiki is. But I thought, why not? I'm a very good student. I'm a very good worker, so I'm sure I could do that well too. Not knowing that it was even energy healing. And I just took it. And it was the first time that it's almost as there was a switch that went off on me. And I saw the light in the end of the tunnel with regards to my marriage, with regards to my personal life with friends and family, and even with this endless work. So life still continues, but I came back to New York City after studying Reiki in another place, and I was looking for a Reiki teacher that would offer a very structured class. But at that time, back in the early 2000s, the website was very foo-foo-y, like just like feeling good. And that for me didn't jive until I found my teacher's website. And her website read like a college syllabus. It was very structured. It was like, you'll get this many hours and this is what you will get after the completion of the program. And of course, I found out later that she was an opera singer. That's why structure for her makes perfect sense. And I studied with her, and it was hard. She made it very hard. It was very demanding. And my boss at the end, one of my earlier boss said to me later that she could see how Reiki had changed me. It made me to be much more grounded, more structured, and more confident in myself. And later I also took family constellation, and that actually enhanced my Reiki practice in helping me understand and even implement Reiki. And while I was teaching Reiki, I somehow combined family constellation and Reiki together as a lens for me to see and help others to see their lives. Most people will come into Reiki thinking they're learning a hands-on healing modality. But when you come into a class, and in a classroom, there's a lot of reflective moment to help them realize who they are and to hear their own thoughts, and to, for the first time, perhaps even have an idea that they actually have some preference on how they feel and what they see, versus then going on about their lives based on what other people said and how other people see. So when they come into a Reiki class, because all I merely showed them was a reflective space for them to ask themselves, is this truly what you're thinking? Is this truly how you feel? And the work continues and starts from there onward. They're the one that started the work. And so the process unfolds organically when they start asking questions, when they start questioning themselves, who they are. And that's amazing, because I have seen relationship changed. I have seen career changed. I have seen moves from state to state. I have even seen orientation change. Just because they, for the first time, it's almost like a permission. A lot of people don't realize they can give themselves permission to ask questions and to question the way they live, the way they think, the way they feel. And once that happens, it's very easy to just insert the Reiki practice within it to support their changes. So the work, it's not the Reiki practice itself. The work is in them. Reiki practice, which consists of self-care and meditation, those are more of carving out space and moments to support them while they go through those changes. And having a community or having friends or Reiki practitioner around you that are willing to and open to your questions and thoughts without judgments. Because all of us being there, we all have thoughts and feelings that we're afraid to share because it may take us out of our belonging of the space. And our sense of belonging for a lot of people is very, very inherently strong within them to belong in their tribes, in their family, in their friends. So what happened in the Reiki 1 especially is when you open up the space and for the first time you see that question that come up, there may be anger that come up because you're challenging them in their sense of belonging. And then to share, to say it's okay to ask, because if you want to couch it in a sense, just go with your imagination and just ask yourself all these things. And once they start asking, their own desire to meet them where they are will take over the process. And then they will, most of the time, I would say 99% of the time, I see them keep continuing. There are some small percentage that does go hiding because they don't want to ask the questions. So for me, Reiki, I teach Reiki because it was my opening to live a better life, to have a more real marriage with my husband, to be more real with my children, and to be more real with my own parents, my siblings. I lost some friends, but then I also made good friends later. I have a marriage that works for me now, whereas I probably would have dissected to death.
Right.
I don't apologize for who I am as a mother anymore, because I see my kids, no matter how different they are confident and they're well adjusted. And I think that's what we can ask as parents, to have our kids have confidence and well adjusted, and they're good people. So,
Joanna, can I ask you, just taking first of all, that's amazing. And it's so inspiring and encouraging because all of the things that you describe is what anybody would like, that kind of health and that confidence. Will you tell me what Reiki is? Because in my mind, I think of somebody lying on a table and somebody else, the practitioner, with their hands. But what you're describing is much bigger than that.
okay. I know it's actually quite interesting that this COVID time came up, because Reiki was first defined by this lay monk, Master Sui in Japan, back in the 1920s. He first introduced Reiki to the Japanese community. But the way it was taught, so this is, imagine, you have this man that had this moment of realization, and somehow he probably sat there and wondered, how do I then translate this to the human consciousness? How do I share this with all his understanding that everyone is one and that this is an illusion? How does he translate that into a matter? So he has his own learning, he has his own teaching methods. And the way he taught was just like, it would remind me of the Socrates days, where the philosopher would speak on the street and people would just listen. That's what he did too. He would share and he would just speak. And he also incorporate various simple lessons to meet people where they are. So if you take the Western view of carrying water, chopping wood, or the movie Kung Fu Panda, he was someone like that. He would just meet people where they are and give them simple listens. And it was no fanfare, which is very simple wisdom guidance, simple lessons for them to practice. So it could be go meditate by the water, go sit on the rock, or go cook, go observe how you cook rice for next 1 year. It could be as simply as that. So the idea of him meeting the people where they are was to guide them to coming attunement with their own soul journey. So there was no lesson alike for everybody. It was he sees
Right.
you where you are and he guides you accordingly to what is it you are looking for or what your pathway is leading you. So there was no certifications or various things that the Western know now, but it was all about your own spiritual journey. So Reiki in New York State is considered spiritual healing. Now, it got brought to US via one of his later, I call it the grand students because it was a student of his students called Madame Takata, who was a Japanese Hawaiian woman. She went to Japan and learned about Reiki. And when she brought it back in the 1930s, she just imagined there was this 4'11" Japanese woman who grew up in Hawaii and now but wanted to introduce Reiki to US. Guess what she did? She changed the history. She changed the teaching methods, but she met the culture differently from the way Master Usui taught the class, differently from the way her teacher taught the class, but she taught it the way to meet the people back in the 1930s. And at that time, guess what? She did not have any written notes. It was like, you're not allowed to write notes. Everything was verbal. And I found it quite interesting, right? First of all, she made up the history and also various technique and vocabulary she had to change. And she was known to be a good storyteller. So she had to amend all this to create a practice that meet the people at that time. Now, so a Reiki, the way she met it was self-care, right? Practice on the table, hands-on healing. Hands-on healing there is that benefit. It's not it was never meant to be the focus of a Reiki practice. Okay. But what I love about Reiki is because we all came in, so did I. Actually, I came in because I needed healing in ways I didn't know. And one of the thoughts I realized about Reiki is, it's not why you want to practice Reiki, it's how you practice Reiki. I practiced Reiki first, then I found out why I practice Reiki. So the way Madame Takata taught Reiki, self-care, hands-on healing, these were very important because it came into a time where we did not come from the time of spirituality like back in the Japan's in 1920s where the Zen Buddhism was plenty. Here we're talking about Woodstock and just very peaceful movements at that time. And therefore we needed to learn spirituality through our body. So hands-on healing, teaching people how to do hands-on healing, teaching people how to do distance healing. These were all terminologies, vocabulary that was translated once it came to US, and then it got populated thereafter with the same set of terminology. But I found that because we get so busy with our lives, our mind gets so caught up with our lives, to have something tangible to bring us back into ourselves so we can remember there's a core programming within us that we forgot about. So it's just imagine if we busy install all the software in the system, we forget what's driving the system.
Right.
And therefore, yes, Reiki was taught as hands-on healing, but there's one thing I learned from my teacher when I first learned Reiki that was so important was she says, you cannot heal anybody. Only they can heal themselves. And from walking and practicing Reiki and teaching Reiki all these years, I found, of course, I couldn't heal them because it's truly their work, their own journey. There's no healing involved. It's a piece. It's a work of art. So we are all born to create our work of art. So how can I? So there's nothing to heal other than show you what other tools you have, to show you what other colors you're working with, to show you what type of artist you are, so you can continue with your own work. And
Right.
that's what I love about beauty about Reiki, is that it's not, we are not healing people. We are we are really help. I would say we became a reflection or an example of opening up a space, or perhaps a permission to come back in with ourselves and excavate and find all the paintbrush that we have to do our work.
Yeah.
That's how I end up teaching Reiki. Yes, hands-on healing is wonderful, but guess what? Hands-on healing also help you learn more about your own spirit, because when our hands on another person, even in distance, it's almost having our soul get in touch with their soul, help us understand the overall soul journey of the human consciousness. And so that's tapping onto a beauty that comes in with, I would say, any type of spiritual practice, to tap into that soul journey. But that's why hands-on healing, yes, it's an entry point to a Reiki practice, but it also helps you learn about yourself, your soul. Am I going too far?
No, I love it. I love it. I've never heard Reiki described that way, and I love that description, because I hear you talking about our, as a practitioner, your own personal self-discovery, embodying that, supporting somebody else through their own personal inquiry, discovery of themselves. And so my mind goes to connecting the fact that you designed a program that has a level 1, a level 2, and a level 3. And we're very lucky at the Open Center that you teach it through us. And you're structured, which I love too. That resonates with me. So you're really guiding the students through a process that's very clearly defined. So I guess, so when a student wants to take a class with you, they're doing it for many reasons, for their own personal growth, to become a practitioner. Is that right? I mean, is that something that they could do, or is it and also maybe to merge with other modalities of inquiry like you have?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Actually, I saw the change in time through the teachings. I saw the change of students throughout the years, right? In the beginning, I remember when I first studied, there were more people coming in to want to heal other people, right? They want to heal other people. They want to work on their friends and family. And then at that time, not many of them have their own meditational practice. But I would say last a little over 5 years, you see many more people with meditational practice, and perhaps ironically with a little more sophisticated language and terminology about healing themselves, which I also find it quite amusing, because there's also the what I call it, the negative feedback on too much spiritual practice. They start calling on all the language jargons, but it doesn't matter to me why they think they come in.
Yeah.
Because I know Reiki is so simple. You can't hide with Reiki, and because once they come into the class and they learn about Reiki, it sits with them, and it is with them.
Mm.
And it's never leave them. It's what makes them a Reiki practitioner is all they have to do is listen to what their body is telling them, listen to what their inner voice is telling them. Because Reiki, it's a listening practice. It is a meditational practice.
Mm-hmm.
Even when we work with the clients, we're listening. We're listening, and it's just imagine when you come into Reiki 1 and then you're practicing with your classmates. What they found was before they thought they were just listening to themselves talking, so they thought it was imagination. But while working with a classmate, they realized there's more to this. There's more to just their imagination. Their classmate they're having a similar experience, similar thoughts with their classmates, and that simple validation opened the door to there's a whole different set of vocabulary that they was never aware of, and that once they take this listening skill into their lives, first with them, they have to learn to listen to themselves, then perhaps hear their children better, hear their parents or siblings better, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just hear better. And
And
they'll
I'm
continue.
sorry to
Yes,
interrupt you. I hear intuitive healing, not just like what you say to me, but like what your heart and soul says to me.
it is because to what I found very magical about Reiki, it's so simple, yet it's all it is. It's about opening space to allow yourself to trust.
Mm.
Trusting hearing yourself, trusting your space, trusting there's a voice in you. Because what I found with work, with family, especially working, a lot of us, we respond very quickly because we're afraid of we get very defensive. There's a we get like either the mentality of uh, not good enough, not being right, right, or not having whatever story that people have built up in their head.
Mm.
It pushed them to react so quickly without realizing they have their own space, that they don't have to fight for anything. So a Reiki is simply finding your own space and then allowing all this noise, all this view to happen without feeling the need to get engaged, and just living your life from sitting where you are without having to worry about or wanting to live in other people's lives. Um, and I think I know my mind. I could tell already. My mind is sort of trying to. It's moving away from your original ask. So you may have to guide me back to your
Yeah.
questions again. Um,
No, it's all good. It's all good. I'm trying, I'm curious. I mean, I want to take your class because it feels like it it is such a superpower to have that we all have in us to listen truly both to ourselves and to our community and to the world, to that what you've said, the universal energy, and letting that help us through all aspects of our lives and helping serve humanity, serve something bigger than ourselves through it as well, right? um, you've designed something because you are a structural person, a level 1, level 2, level 3. Can you kind of quickly guide me, as somebody who may want to take your class, what I'm going to get in those 3 series?
okay.
What's the difference between the 3?
This reminds me of how my teacher asked me to when she was teaching Reiki, when she was teaching me as in Reiki for the teacher training. I would always have to give her purpose and objective for every segment that she teach. And whenever I give her an answer, she would always say, "What's the energy behind that?" And then I would give her an answer, and she would always keep asking, "What's the energy behind it?" Until I can finally understood
Right.
um, the overall reason of how things came together in this program. So, Reiki 1 it's just a basic introduction of your space. I'm going to use my language. I think other teacher may say to introduce you Reiki. What is Reiki? It gives you, so if I give you the basic terminology, Reiki 1 is about what is Reiki history, how to do self-care, which is very important and key for all the Reiki practitioners to these days, and how to do Reiki for another person. So that's your basic learning from Reiki. These tools, and also we also gave you meditation guidance. These tools are tools that everyone can readily find a way to incorporate in their lives without feeling threatened that it's complicated. It's very simple tools and doesn't require hard thinking. It's just, I just do this.
Mm.
And once they start doing this and they start sharing, and the beautiful is always when they practice on their friends and family, and their friends and family was like, wow, this is awesome. And then they're like, really? This is actually work? And then they'll come back and then they share the experience, and it's always beautiful. Here it is. Reiki is so simple. Just try it. And then you found that what's the worst thing that happened? You don't do anything about it. That's all it does. And you just continue as you are. It's this, there's no downside. There's only upside to it. Mm-hmm. And so when they come back to Reiki 2, now they have now some basic understanding of that there is energy out around you, and that they can tap into that, and they could actually work with some type of energy that speaks between them and the other person. Now they want to know a little more. They're a little scared, but they want to know a little more. Mm-hmm. So in Reiki 2, we actually now we teach them the Reiki symbols that the Western people thought was the magic pill. It's not. It's just a representation of different type of energy that is out there. Mm. So Reiki symbol is a portal of help. It's a first, I would say, the ABC of how to understanding what type of energies are out there. So the way I describe it is, imagine the Reiki symbol as the doorway to a labyrinth, different labyrinth. And when you walk into first symbol, this is the labyrinth that you're going to come across. The overall underlying energy of that labyrinth is about Earth. What does Earth mean to you? Second symbol, it's about heaven. So you open a door to the second symbol, you walk into labyrinth. What does heaven mean to you? And there's example that we give in between. The third symbol, it's about oneness. Now oneness is about becoming a tree, being a human, a perfect medium between heaven and earth. You pulling,
right?
See the formation of yin and yang, right? So yin and yang has two parts, and the circle and the transformation is the oneness. What does that mean to you? So 3 different doorway, 3 different walk allow you to have some sense, start differentiating perhaps different vibrations, different frequencies. So these are introduced as a way to give them for them to find their own vocabulary in how to define energy for themselves, right? So just imagine different artists have different colors, right? Some will describe pink differently, some will describe purple differently. So therefore, I'm not telling them what pink is pink. I'm asking them to define their own pink color, define their own purple colors, right? Because they're their own artists. They're going to be drawing on this. Now, Reiki 2 also, whereas in Reiki 1, we taught them how to do Reiki for another person on a chair, because most people is not going to have table, but chairs everywhere. We have done health fairs and career fairs with people on the chairs. You could do Reiki in a hospital while the patient's on the chair. So in Reiki 2, we introduced now the protocol on the table. Now, back in the Reiki days, Reiki was first done on a table. It was Madame Takata who took the table practice onto the chair and onto the personal care. So they did it. She did it the other way. We now go come from the other way, from the personal care to the chair back to the table. So we show them how to do on the table, but nevertheless, it's just a protocol. And what my teacher said is protocol will always repeat result. But once you get to Reiki 3, you drop all the protocols. We now focus on your intuition, because by the time you finish your 1 and 2, you have first one you start having idea you have intuition. Number 2, Reiki 2, you start practicing to strengthen that intuition, and we give you protocols so you don't have to worry about whether you're doing right or wrong. But in Reiki 3, you're asked to drop the protocol, and we teach you how to scan the body, how to scan the chakras. And one of the things, and so you can scan with your hands, you can scan with your eyes. So you learn to trust your intuition fully. But Reiki 3 is not just to enhance that intuition, it was more important than for them to know who they are. So one of the things that I didn't share with you before, and that was uniquely that I have to thank my constellation teacher that ever taught me, was I actually created this thing called the Chakra Walk. I actually lay out chakras on the floor, and I guide them to walk their own chakras. And so so there's like 7 lines of people walking from, just imagine the family constellation from the Earth Star, from when they're a spirit walking to the first chakra, which is the family, walking through the childhood, walking through their heart, having the first love, having the first relationship, walking into the wisdom years, having your understanding, and then in the end walking towards facing their ancestors. So the sound may be simple, but it's a way for them to readily meet them.
That's amazing. That's quite an alchemy, quite a transformative experience, experiential,
That's what someone told me, that it's very experiential.
Yeah.
But to make them I found to make them just a very powerful in their own lives. And when I say, like you say, when I say powerful being, is to empower themselves to take charge of their life,
right.
and that reflects and echoes into their practice when they are with clients. And I have seen students, lawyers, doctors, nurses, right, therapists, teachers, they had come to learn about Reiki because people now understood that Reiki it's not outside of you. It's something you can readily be with at 2:00 in the morning when no one's speaking with you. Reiki is with you at 2:00 in the morning when you feel not sure, when you don't have answer, when you are heartbroken or whatever. When you don't have the answer, that's always the moment I always say to people, Reiki is your teacher after class, because it's in you. So when I'm not there, when teacher's not there, when the books are not there, when your support group is not there at 2:00 in the morning, all you have is you. That's where your Reiki practice comes out. So I love to see all these people come in and bring this to empower themselves, to be a stronger person, to be okay that they don't have to be like others. They don't have to have answers for other people, but all they are just, and then you realize, right? We are not asking other people to have the answer. We're just asking other people to see us, to hear us. So these Reiki practitioners, that's why they practice. By knowing who they are, they have come into this contentment. They don't have to compete. So by knowing who they are, they now are free to see you and to hear you as you are. That's what I found the beauty. That's all that is for Reiki practitioner.
That's amazing. I love it. I want to bring in distance. So 2 aspects of the distance. One is that we're teaching this class online. And then the other is distance healing, remote healing. So having that intuitive access across a distance when you're talking to a friend, a loved one, a client. So I guess there's two questions. One, Reiki, does it work distance wise, remotely? And then two, how well does it work online when you're teaching me how to do that online?
So I'll bring out the questions I was asked right before this call, right before this interview, and I said to you, I'll share with you later.
Yeah.
I was on a phone call with the Reiki 3 students, and she says, how do you attune a student online? So attunement is a process, traditionally, attunement is the process that makes a person a Reiki practitioner. That's how it's described on any textbook about Reiki program, right? So I said, I said to the student, if she remember how we did attunement in the class, we didn't touch anybody. So what's it to say about, if I'm not touching you and you're a Reiki practitioner thereafter, what's it to say about whether online or physical, in a physical space? Simply, you can just put it that way. Also, Reiki is just a word. It's about something we already have. So it's up to anybody. Even doesn't even have to be a Reiki teacher. It could be a duck in the pond. Actually, I'm sorry to say that. It's if they found me as a teacher, it's because I have a vocabulary that allow them to tap into themselves and start listening.
You're a facilitator of that.
A facilitator. So I have always said to everybody, when you come into my class, all you're doing is just borrowing my vocabulary until you find your own vocabulary. Mm-hmm. Just like when I go to a class, an art class, I use the paint set that a teacher probably offer until I create my own paint set. Right. So yes, Reiki can be taught online, not because it could just be taught online. That is just another word. Reiki is, it's more, the reason that there's an insertion of online, people are asking about online now, is because Reiki has always happened before the class even started. And I saw that, I noticed that, and I understood that when my teacher used to ask me about what is the intention for this segment. And I saw how energetically she would open up the space on a Friday night before a Saturday morning class. I literally would see the energy start forming. So these were happening before they even came into class. So now, by coming to this COVID time where we have to teach online, people are now asking, not realizing things were already happening. It's just now we got to put into more black and white words. There's online.
Right.
But guess what? The energy was happening even before you even signed up. How many times have we heard from the Open Center in the intro, right? How did you end up taking the class? The magazine fell, the Open Center catalog fell on the floor and opened up to this page, and I saw it. I wasn't doing anything Friday, and it was just happened to be there. I say, why not? And it was just interesting. Therefore, Reiki energy there's a synchronicity that is involved.
Right.
And online is just a filter.
That's
you
great.
could teach Reiki online, and the more I'm exposed. So, for example, I think another good example to you is one of the things that the Reiki practitioner have found that's more common than they want to admit is that they have bring their Reiki practice in helping people pass. And well, there's some scaredy cat. They're like, oh my God, can this happen? I was like, I don't see why not, right? It's just, you're just looking at different traffic versus human traffic. You're looking at the spirit traffic, right? There's traffic over there. And so not to make it lightly, but I was,
death happens to everybody. It's part of our lives, right?
Well, it's with Reiki, with Reiki, and to help people pass, to even that's that's part of the journey. And so if you can help, if the Reiki practitioner are now helping people pass, and some of my students actually have gone to the other program in the Open Center with at the death doula.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
right. Yes. A lot of my students actually found interest in that program at the end because the natural um, I guess movement of our how we do our work.
Right.
And therefore with distance healing, working with the passing, teaching online is not just another,
Right.
not just a method.
Right. And I have to say, and we don't have time to unpack it, but you used your, the whole the big umbrella of Reiki to even pass your Series 7 exam.
Oh, yeah.
You told me that one. So, I mean, it's all of it. It's all of it.
Well, I didn't use it to pass my Series 7. I use it to make myself study harder.
Oh, okay.
So what I said was, in our practice, we learn to have respect for the collective consciousness. So when I first in my job, in my first interview, I actually used a tree, a big giant tree in the park as a representation for my company, and I asked, and I sort of used the founding father of the company as a representation of, the tree to represent the founding father of the company. And that gave me a sense. So that was my way, an entryway for me to have a dialogue and have a sense of where the energy is at. And it tells me at that time that there's space for me if that's what I want. So that was one representation I used, and this I learned from family constellation to use something to represent something that I have issues with. And another thing that you talked about was a test that I was very nervous about, and Series 7 is it's a test that all traders have to do. And so I actually, because I used to work in World Trade Center, and I fully respect and feel for the traders that have died that day. So for me to pass this Series 7 test, I actually asked another tree to represent the collective consciousness of all the traders, namely the traders at that time of the World Trade Center. And I asked them if it's okay, do I have permission to enter their space? And that one, it was funny. It wasn't as generous as my company. It actually, the sense I got back was, well, show me what you got first. So it wasn't something I can readily go in and say, hey, you have a space. This is like, you better study. So right. That test, that representation had me going back to study further.
That's amazing. I love it.
So these are the things that tools that we just help us listen.
Right. Well, wanted to say that Susie Tucker is a leading scholar and practitioner and trainer of family constellations. She also teaches at the Open Center, and family constellations is an amazing method and tool that I'm so glad that you're using and integrating.
Oh, she is my teacher.
She's amazing.
I love her. She's out of all the family constellation teacher, I adore her the best.
Yeah, that's
because
so cool.
She has a way to one of the things she taught me that was very important. She says the students should not know what a teacher believes when they leave the classroom. And I see, and she practiced that.
Wow.
She does. When she teaches family constellation, when she's guiding family constellations, you don't know her intention, but she is there, but it's not what she wants. She fully gave the space over to the students. And to listen into her space of teaching, I have learned so much from her. I was like, she's a wonderful teacher.
Well, she's teaching family constellations now. So we're going to have to get her class scheduled again so that she can teach it soon. So we are running out of time, and there's two things that I want to make sure to cover. Number one, I want to take your class, and Reiki 1, it starts in July 18th. It's a 3-day workshop. And so you say it's very simple, but it's meaty. It runs from 9 until 2 on Saturday. It runs 9 until 2 on Sunday, and then it runs 9 until 1:30 the next Saturday. All of this is on the website, and all the details are there. But that begins July 18th, continues the July 19th and July 25th for those of us who want to join you. Reiki 2, for those of us who are moving into that next space, is also a 3-day workshop with a similar format starting September 19th. September 19th, September 20th, and September 26th. And then Reiki 3 is being figured out because you do require it a face-to-face. You require it to be done, which is wonderful, and I'm sure super balancing. And we're finding a location for that. So that'll be happening post our September date. So I want to just let all of our audience know about that. Lastly, I just want to encourage everybody to go to Joanna's personal website. Definitely go to the Open Center website, but your personal website and your Instagram are beautiful. And I just want to say, when I arrived at your website, the first thing that you do is you dedicate your entire teaching practice and your practice to your teacher, which immediately establishes you in a lineage. And that's very powerful. And then the second thing that you do is you say that Reiki is really about that personal self-discovery. It's whatever anybody walking into wants to make it. And you really stress that in our conversation. And it's just so empowering to meet a body of work in that way. So I would just encourage anybody to get that feel and to go to your website, easy to find. And then lastly, your Instagram is gorgeous. It's this beautiful constellation of photos of crystals and like sacred geometry and beautiful flowers. It's so deep visually without needing to say anything verbally. So just to tell us a little bit about the crystals. I mean, they seem like they're really powerful to you. And then with that, we'll close.
Okay. Crystals are a lot of fun for a lot of people. And I found that we only magic in our lives, right? And so crystal has consciousness, just like plants and flowers and trees, they'll have consciousness. And so you can use them as a way to help you echo and listen to the voice within you. So that's what the crystals are for. Crystals are like amplifiers. They can help you. It opens up a space and echoes what's already in you. That's what's beautiful about crystals. Flowers and plants, they work a little differently. Nevertheless, they have a sound, they have a voice. And I never used to realize there were sounds and voice in those things until, and I could have people that tells me all the time and I would never believe it, honestly. And I found it's a switch of a permission again, like I said, to willing to say, what if I could hear this? Or do what I did was during the COVID time, I would just take a lot of walk. And then eventually this walk would sort of seep into me and I could hear myself better. And I can hear myself not just better, differently. And then I realized they're actually helping me hear differently. And that's when I then said, they have a voice, they have a sound. There's a certain teaching awareness that we have about them, but to come into one-on-one, to build on a one-on-one relationship with them will really teach you that. So I always like, during the COVID time, I actually sent out like about 100 care packages I sent out a email to my Reiki 3 students and some Reiki students to say, hey, would you like a care package? And if you want, just send me your address and name for copy and paste, and I'll send you a care package. So inside was like flower essence, essential oils, and crystals. And I just sent it out to them. And it was really nice to hear the feedback of how you arrive at a time when you needed it, right? And so it's flower essence and the crystals and essential oils. All these are living things, living beings. They support the soul. They feed your soul. And that's so I'm very fortunate to be able to share crystals in my classroom because I call them the fairy stones. They bring magic to your life, just like plants and flowers. And we all need that, right? When we don't have, and if you can come into Reiki class, like I even share them in the Reiki circle because even without Reiki class, I'm going to say, I'll give you one fun example just to end.
Yes.
One of I could breathe through my crystals. For some reason I could. I don't know how I could. But one of the students in Reiki 1, when she heard I could do that, she was about to leave and not come back. She said, Joanne, I saw her in Reiki 2. After Reiki 1, she said she wasn't coming back. She said, I'm not going to go study with a teacher that can breathe through crystals. That's a hogwash. But she said to me, as she was walking into the subway, somebody airdropped a picture of crystal in her phone. She didn't know where that come from, but she knows. She said, I'm coming back to Reiki too. She said she doesn't know who airdropped a picture of crystals in her phone. So
amazing.
Crystal works wonderfully. Even if you don't take class, just have fun because they are all echoes of spirits.
It's amazing. I have adored our conversations. I'm so happy that you're teaching with us. I'm so glad that people have access to you. You're healing all of us individually and helping us serve something bigger than ourselves on the globe. And today, this is such a historic moment. So thank you, Joanna Crespo. Thank you so much. And so please go to the website, opencenter.org, and you'll be able to meet more about Joanna and go to her website and her Instagram account, and just endless gratitude to you.
Thank you, Anna.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Thank you. Bye.